15 prophetic books, dozens of names, centuries of history, it sounds overwhelming. But you only need to remember 4 crises to make sense of all of them. And here's something you might not expect. The people who wrote some of the most radical, revolutionary words in the Bible were conservatives. At least that's what one major scholar calls them. Let's break this down. The key is 4 crises. Every classical prophet, meaning a prophet who has a biblical book attributed to them, maps onto one of 4 national crises in ancient Israel's history: the Assyrian crisis, the Babylonian crisis, the exile, and the restoration. Learn these 4 moments, and every prophet falls into place. We'll build this timeline 1 crisis at a time. First, the Assyrian crisis around the 8th century BCE. The Assyrian Empire threatens both Israelite kingdoms, the northern kingdom called Israel, and the southern kingdom called Judah. 4 prophets respond. In the north, Amos and Hosea. In the south, Isaiah and Micah. These 4 books reward comparison. Amos and Hosea address a kingdom about to be destroyed. Isaiah and Micah address a kingdom that will survive, barely. Same crisis, different perspectives. Second, the Babylonian crisis, late 7th to early 6th century BCE. The northern kingdom has already fallen. Now the Assyrian Empire itself collapses. The prophet Nahum addresses Assyria's fall in 612 BCE, a concrete date worth remembering. As Babylon rises to replace Assyria and threatens Judah, 2 prophets speak, Jeremiah and Habakkuk. Jeremiah becomes the dominant voice of this period, warning Judah of the destruction to come. Third, the exile, 6th century BCE. Babylon has conquered Judah and deported its people. The prophet of this period is Ezekiel, who speaks to the community in Babylon itself. Fourth, the restoration. Israelites return to their land and rebuild. The prophets here are Haggai, Zechariah, Joel, and Malachi, voices of a community starting over. Here's a powerful mnemonic: the 3 longest prophetic books, the so-called major prophets, each correspond to one of the first 3 crises in order. Isaiah maps to the Assyrian crisis, Jeremiah maps to the Babylonian crisis, Ezekiel maps to the exile. 3 big books, 3 big crises in sequence. The remaining 12 books are called minor prophets, and the latter term refers to book length, not importance. Amos is no less significant than Isaiah. Obadiah is simply the shortest of all. Now that we know who these prophets were and when they lived, let's ask a harder question. What kind of thinkers were they? Scholars have long debated this. Were the prophets reviving ancient Israelite traditions, or were they creating new norms that only later came to be seen as ancient? The scholar Yehezkel Kaufman offered a resolution. He called the prophets standard bearers of the covenant, the foundational agreement between God and Israel that shaped Israelite religion and ethics. Yet these same prophets articulated ideas that earlier Israelites thought had never expressed. They used dramatic imagery, fierce denunciations, and sharp ethical demands that went beyond anything in prior tradition. Kaufman's paradoxical label captures both sides. Radical conservatives. They upheld covenantal tradition while pushing it into genuinely new territory. They stood at the intersection of the ancient and the unprecedented. Because their message was radical, the prophets paid a price. They were scoffed at and persecuted in their own time. Their fierce chastisement of kings, priests, and the people made them deeply unpopular. Yet here's the irony. The very nation that rejected them eventually enshrined their words as sacred scripture. The voices that were silenced became the voices preserved forever. As political and religious reality shifted, the nation recognized that these prophets had spoken essential truths. So how does all of this help us navigate the actual books of the Bible? 2 principles govern the arrangement of the prophetic books: size and chronology. The 3 major books come first, in chronological order of their crises. The 12 minor prophets follow in roughly chronological order, though book size also influences placement. Organizing by size was common practice in the ancient world, not unique to the Bible. Here's your takeaway. Next time you open one of these prophetic books, ask, which crisis is this prophet responding to? That single question unlocks the historical context and makes the text come alive. Try reading one prophet from each crisis period this week, Amos, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Haggai, and notice how the tone and the concerns shift as the nation's situation changes. 4 crises, 15 books, one clear framework,